This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast to support the show. You get bonus episodes, ad-free episodes, all the good Discord server access, Facebook group, etc.
Yes.
You can watch this on YouTube. You probably are watching this on YouTube. I don't know what you're doing right now.
You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to it on YouTube and see like a still.
You can do many things on YouTube. Okay. As we are getting started here, I have to start with this story that literally everyone sent me because it's just it's bait for me.
Yeah, Hemant bait is a dangerous thing. You got to be careful when you chum those waters.
Here's what I think happened. A Christian mother in Texas posts something wild on Facebook, and it's so wild that, the comments underneath, people aren't just like tagging their friends, like, get a load of this.
Yeah.
They're tagging local news outlets. Like,
whoa.
Hey, have you guys seen what this person's saying? So one of these local news outlets in Texas
Was this something I sent you?
Maybe.
Among other people? Okay.
Maybe. It was a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think the local news contacted her and said, let's get you on camera talking about this thing that you're super passionate about. And in this woman's life, no one said that's a bad idea. So not only did she go on camera to talk about the thing she's super passionate about, the camera people just decided, what's the best angle to film this? You know what? Let's just zoom in. Zoom in as close as possible. Whatever your TV space is, it's just going to be her face. And there's no room for anything else.
That's
not chair and the background, just zoomed in all the way. And so here's what she said in her post. I don't know how much of this you want me to read, but it is glorious.
I would like to hear all of it. Thank you.
All right. Mamas.
Oh, God.
I should say her name is Jamie Gooch. Have fun with that. Okay. Mamas, I feel a strong conviction to share a word with you. As mothers and wives, we are the gatekeepers of our homes, meaning whatever we allow in has a rightful place to reside and grow there because we, all caps, have given it permission, whether good or bad, fruitful or rotten.
So far, I'm not completely disagreeing with
Sure.
you. If you're intentional about your life, you bring things into your home that you want there and not just garbage. So, okay, she's not a hoarder.
Next sentence.
Intentionality.
With the release of Hocus Pocus 2 coming up, I would be wrong not to sound the alarm and warn you to protect your children. After all, the whole movie is based on harvesting the purity of children's souls so that witches may live on.
I mean, she has seen the movie. That is how that movie works.
She saw Hocus Pocus 1.
The first movie. I haven't seen the second one
Came out
yet.
in 93, by the way.
It's a
been a while.
good movie.
I'm not doubting it. Hocus Pocus, by definition, means meaningless talk or activity, often designed to draw attention away from and disguise what is actually happening.
I think when I was a kid, I had a crush on Binks the cat, so maybe that's what she's talking about. I had some confusing feelings about the cat with the British man's voice.
It gets more specific, don't worry. What is actually happening when we watch these films? What are we subjecting our minds to with ARE? Our minds to? What are we welcoming into the homes of our families?
So she doesn't mean physical things you bring into your home. She means emotional things, which I guess is kind of different
correct.
from when I was thinking.
It seems silly, right? That
We're
you would
Marie
need
Kondoing her house.
That you would need to consider what is coming through your TV screen. It seems innocent until it's not.
Until Bette Midler starts singing, I got a spell on you, because it's a literal interpretation of a figurative song. Yeah, she sings I put a spell on you, and it's outstanding.
I'm sure I saw it.
Because Kathy Najimy and Sarah Jessica Parker are both also songstresses in their own right, as is the wonderful lady Bette, who has some not great opinions nowadays. However, she does sing I Put a Spell on You, which is by, I cannot think of the name, but it's a literal fun little thing, and then they get a spell put on them, and I think the kids break into a junior high.
She goes on, I'll try to be brief. No, she won't.
Well, nor will I.
Please hear me when I tell you the truth, that the witches and warlocks in the satanic church abuse and sacrifice children in their spiritual rituals to gain more power in the underworld. If that sounds not grammatically correct, you are correct.
I mean, let's not devolve into snobbery. Just because you have bad grammar doesn't mean your views are bad, but she has bad grammar and her views are bad.
That is correct. I would not
Those are
really
two
care
different
about the
things.
spelling errors.
The importance of language is communication and clarity.
I would not be pedantic about the your and the
But
apostrophes.
this bitch did not earn our grace.
Yes. She goes on. So before you hit play on the night of the premiere of this movie, please ask yourself if not only your mind, but your children's minds are strong enough to ward off the hypnotization and bewitching trance that will be coming through the screen to aid in the desensitization of the coming evil in this world. Don't fall victim to the schemes of hell. I say all of this because I, too, have fallen into the trap a time or two. And the spiritual warfare I had to endure because of my own ignorance, I wish on no one.
And Jimmy and Parker put out a great performance every time.
Awaken and rise up, mamas.
Rise
There's a war being waged on our homes, and we are the gatekeepers.
Wow. Holy shit. That was so much fun for me. Have you ever... Okay, this is obscure, and I know you haven't seen it. Do you know the movie? Oh, shit. I think it's a Halloween movie, but it's like 3, and it's called Curse of the Silver Shamrock.
No.
And the thing is, they are selling masks for these kids, and then it's like, don't forget, kids, at 8 o'clock on Halloween, turn on the TV at this exact time, put on your mask, and then something bad is going to happen. The kids get sucked in or catch on fire. Unclear what the consequences will be. Anyway, that's what I think this woman, I think she like saw that movie and then forgot it, and then she was like, everybody's going to sit down on opening night and hit play simultaneously on their televisions, and then... again, unclear what the consequences were at the end of that movie, but like, is that what she thinks is going to happen? Like, they're going to enter your home via your TV?
So she
via your
appears.
TV?
She
and
appears
is Hocus
on
Pocus 2 the worst thing that she's seen on television?
She appears on KWTX in Texas, and here's what she says to them. Do not watch this film. Everybody thinks it's fake and innocent, but they could be casting any type of spell that they want to. Anything could be coming through that TV screen into your home. And I don't think this is spiritual. I think she really thinks they're going to cast a spell through your TV, which, listen, I'm all for smart TVs and good technology, and that's not how anything works.
No, I think we'll get smell-o-vision before we get that.
Right?
No, This does sound like a woman having sort of a paranoid episode.
I disagree with you. I think this is unfair to her because I have no reason to think if she were genuinely suffering some sort of mental illness, I don't think it would be funny to make fun of her. No, I think she harbors pretty standard insane Christian beliefs about supernatural things because there are plenty of evangelical Christians who think Halloween is some sort of satanic horrible thing. And like she's not alone in that. So it's unfair, I think, to say, well, they caught her and took advantage of her.
Sure.
No, they put a microphone up to her mouth and said, please spread your message because clicks.
But those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
Not necessarily, but I will say, like, I've seen plenty of TV news outlets post things on Facebook, and they're usually really quick. Summary, here's the link to our website. Maybe here's the clip we showed. No, they put some graphic design into this segment.
Whoa.
Like, quoting her directly. Here's a nice picture of her. Here's the Hocus Pocus movie poster.
Oh, my God.
Like, they went all out because they knew this was, like, internet gold.
Sure. I think I'm also just primed to look for mental illness because Sawbones just released an episode about schizophrenia, and I literally finished it 20 minutes before you got here, so I think I'm just in that headspace of diagnosing strangers.
The Gooch went on to say, we have not participated in Halloween in about 4 or 5 years.
Wait.
She has 3 kids. She said, we haven't done Halloween in 4 or 5 years. It's just how we live our lives. It grieves me, the thought of exposing our kids to darkness.
Yikes. Is she connected to a specific sect?
I was looking, and I did not find any specific church or denomination. I should say she privatized most of her Facebook profile.
Probably smart.
And I don't know if it's because she was getting harassed, which is not cool, or she's like, oh, shit. people found out what I believe, and I realized I'm the weird one.
Well,
I don't know. It's probably the first
not how
one.
she's processing it, but
But she kind of shut it off.
Yeah.
It was not hard to link to her husband, who had a more robust profile that was not private. But no, it didn't say, like, we belong to this church. This is where we're getting our crazy thoughts from. But, I mean, like, part of me wants to think she's like some troll planted by atheists, or that this is part of the Hocus Pocus 2 marketing campaign, because it would be brilliant.
I mean, I would be really impressed by that, actually.
But there's no reason to think that, because this is what so many, I mean, this is what so many people believe. And not only that, there were plenty of people online who are commenting, who are sharing her, like, post,
Right.
who were like, yes,
Yep.
sister, right on. I am a mama
Good
bear.
work.
Thank you,
Oh,
Jesus,
God,
whatever.
Mama bear. I keep threatening to buy my sister-in-law mama bear things, or like boy mom stuff, because she has a son now. I don't get the boy mom thing. It's weird.
So, Gooch.
So, okay. I don't know if I don't know. I feel concerned more than anything else.
I
And, like,
want
this-
you to walk around to my
this-
computer and look at the picture of her, because, again, this is what they showed on the TV.
Okay. That's very close.
Thank you. I'm not alone in saying
Her
this.
makeup is exquisite, though.
Uh-huh.
Very tastefully done. Yeah, this is very, I don't know. I don't know what to make of shit like this. I guess this is the same shit as like Harry Potter in the 90s and
Absolutely.
And
I
It's the same thing
appreciate
repackaged.
whenever
You're right.
they share this, because you can't defend this stuff. Of
Yeah.
course, even plenty of Christians are like, oh no, not
Calm
someone
down.
like her. And good, make it harder for these people to defend their views, because like you should expose these people for what they believe and what they actually say. You don't have to twist it. I literally just read her Facebook post for you. If she's embarrassed by that, blame her.
Yeah.
All right, I do have some good news, and I've been sitting on this one for a little while, so I was very excited about this. Here's the story. A few weeks ago, I caught wind, got a tip, that some lawmakers in Minnesota were trying to do something really cool. And so I reached out to them, at the time. And so for the past couple of weeks, I chatted with 3 different state lawmakers in Minnesota
Cool.
and a couple of other people. But basically, here's what's going on in the state of Minnesota. They just launched this week a Secular Government Caucus. And maybe you've heard of like the the Free Thought Caucus,
Sure.
Congressional Free Thought Caucus in D.C. that has like 14 members. They're all Democrats. Jared Huffman, Jamie Raskin, a few other people are helping run that ship. And basically, look, it's just 14 of them. The Congressional Prayer Caucus is many, many times larger than that.
Right.
But basically, they're saying we want to not just stand up against discrimination against atheists. That's one pillar of it. But also, we want to push back against Christian nationalism.
Sure.
We want to defend church-state separation. We want to promote policies that are based on data and science and, like, normal good things. Like, theoretically, there's no reason every single member of Congress shouldn't already be a part of that.
Well, theoretically.
Okay. So in Minnesota, the question is, okay, well, right now you have a Democratic governor.
Right.
It's a divided state legislature. I believe the Senate has a few more Republicans. The House has a few more Democrats. Sorry if I flipped that, but it's one or the other. But it's tight, but they have a Democratic governor. So the question is, how much Christian nationalist agenda type of stuff are you really worried about? Because you have some defense in place here. And so I spoke with State Senator John Marty. I spoke with Mike Freeberg, who is a House member, and also Senator Jen McEwen, all of that state. And they all talked about why they felt the Secular Government Caucus was useful.
Yeah.
And basically, think about this. They pointed to 2 things in particular that got their attention, but I don't think hit their Democratic colleagues the same way. Here's the first one. A couple years ago, there was a proposal by the GOP majority in the Senate to put in God We Trust posters in public schools all around the place. Most people, I think,
Real
who don't
important
follow
work.
this stuff are like, it doesn't seem like a big deal. Even if I don't like it, not a huge deal. And they don't realize, no, this is part of like Project Blitz. This is part of a giant playbook to get God into schools. I should say the Minnesota Senate Republicans passed a bill to force schools to do that. But when they were told, you probably can't force them to do it, they backed up and said, okay, we'll pass a bill that says they can if they want to. But Democrats and...
Genuinely, can you believe that somebody ran an election, got into office, and it was like, gang, the big problem here, not enough signs.
Yes. I should say the Democrats in the state house, they put a stop to that particular bill. Here's the more concerning
Did
one.
anything interesting happen in Minnesota in the last couple of years that you think the government could be looking into? Or they've kept their notes clean.
No
yeah?
notes. They're all good in
Police
Minnesota.
department is
Perfect.
cool and
Yep.
on the up and up. Great.
Totally.
Great.
Second concern is that one of the Republicans in the state, that the chair of the Senate Finance Committee, like a high-powered Republican in the state, said we're going to suggest cutting $4 million from the budget of the Minnesota Historical Society, which is $4 million, which is a lot of money for them.
Yeah.
Nonpartisan, nonprofit group. Why are you cutting from the Minnesota Historical Society? And what's the reason for it? Basically, the society invited Stephen K. Green to speak to them in 2019. What is it about? It's about his book called Inventing a Christian America, The Myth of the Religious Founding. Basically, Stephen K. Green said, we don't live in a Christian nation. I'm going to quote from an article about this. The Republicans claimed that the society, the Historical Society, was promoting a narrative about our nation's history and founding that is patently false, and that it would be prudent for the society to cancel Professor Green's presentation, or better yet, allow us as Christian legislators in Minnesota to debate this issue with Professor Green. First of all, they're literally trying to cancel this guy whose opinions they don't like, which you would think is a thing Republicans don't want to do. But the second thing, they're all like, well, debate me. They want to debate a settled issue of American history.
gang.
There's nothing to debate.
Any person who says debate me, nah.
And then after all that, and the Historical Society is like, he's a scholar. He knows what he's talking about. We invite people with various perspectives all the time. This is not even weird for us. The Republicans are like, we want to cut their budget. Anyway, all this happens a couple years ago where they make these suggestions even if they don't go through. These lawmakers today, they're like, listen, those things are concerning because we could see where this is going. They want to impose their Christian nationalist views, and they will punish people for doing things they don't like. What they want to do is form this caucus, not just to, write pro-religious freedom, like actual religious freedom legislation. It's more to warn their colleagues, let's have an organized, place where we talk and we meet and discuss this stuff, which in practice is like a once a month Zoom meeting for the caucus. But hey, we need to tell you what's going on right now, how this is part of a bigger picture, why we need to band together against this, and also so you know how to talk about this with your constituents. All of that is super important. But this is kind of a way to get them all together. And I should say, here's the other part of that. They didn't just take this out of thin air. It happened because for years now, two groups in Minnesota, the Minnesota Atheists and Humanist Minnesota, two groups have decided on the day of prayer that conservative Christians like, they always would go to the state capitol in Minnesota, set up shop, talk about why Christianity is important. And they have a legal right to do that. Well, years ago, more than a decade ago, the atheist and humanist groups decided, well, we're going to set up shop in the state capitol as well to talk about the Day of Reason. And basically that meant they're in the capitol. When politicians are walking by, and if they're willing to talk for a second, they could actually talk about why they're there and what is important to them. And they said because of that, they got into good working relationships with some of these politicians who were open to what they had to say, to the point where you can call up this state lawmaker, have a meeting with them if something concerns you. And I should say, Senator John Marty, who is one of the people kind of steering this whole ship, is Lutheran. He's religious, but he's like, I agree with everything you guys are saying. Mike Freeberg came out to me basically saying he's non-religious. So did Senator Jen McEwen. They had never publicly said that before.
Cool.
But because they had
Bernstein over here.
Well, I don't want to take credit for it. It's because they had these relationships with these non-religious groups and the members that they're like, there's nothing wrong with them. And I understand the concerns where they're like, we don't want we don't want you to do something that might be toxic
Right.
For your, your campaign or anything. But this is what we stand for. This is what we want. And they were just super open about it. I actually was wondering, I'm like, you want to all launch this Secular Government Caucus. Are you doing it before the
November?
election? Because not only is there an election where many of them are on the ballot, but also this is a tight legislature.
Sure.
Like, things could flip. And the last thing I would want to see is for them to do this and then have the backlash.
Sure.
And they made it clear they're not worried about that backlash.
Okay.
They're just like, this is worth defending. This is worth standing up for. And they didn't say this to me, but I think the implication was like, this is a fight we want to take on.
Yeah.
Like, we can defend this, and we think it's actually good for our campaigns and who we are to defend, go on the offensive. It's like Democrats right now with abortion rights.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, we don't want to talk about that, it might alienate some voters, they're like, no, we're absolutely going to talk about this. So I just want to say, kudos to the atheist activists who spent years going to the Capitol, building those relationships, letting these politicians know what's going on. And then to these, and I missed the biggest part. They launched this week, and I knew the 4 of them were doing it. There were 4 people kind of co-chairing this. They got 20 other members of the legislature, all Democrats, to join this group with them.
Wow. So what is that? Put the
24
total?
people are part of this Secular Government Caucus, all because these atheists have been working to make it happen, building those relationships. And kudos to the politicians for actually doing it.
Yeah.
And now we get to see what they're going to do with it.
Sure.
It's not a boogeyman, even if you're conservative Christian. Again, all it is a chance for these politicians to say, this means something to us. So we're going to connect every once in a while, talk about what the issues are, and then move forward from there, which they already do because they're politicians.
Right.
But that's fantastic and such a huge deal.
That's great.
Yeah,
Really
it was so exciting. I'm so glad they finally did it. So yay.
Yeah, cool.
Let's talk about Herschel Walker. Oh man.
Oh boy, Herschel Walker. What is he doing? I have not.
What has he done?
What
All right, so
is going on?
Summary here. Herschel Walker, Georgia Republican Senate candidate. Basically, Raphael Warnock is the incumbent Democratic senator, got elected by razor-thin margins the day before January 6th.
Oh, my
and he's been there for a couple of years.
That overlap.
But he's got to get elected for an actual 6-year term. That's what this election's about.
Right.
Republicans, specifically Donald Trump, are like, you know what you should do? Put any black body there so people can vote for the guy who says whatever I want him to say, and they don't have to feel like they're being racist about it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what they did in Georgia.
Oh, that's what we call the Sarah Palin strategy.
So they get Herschel Walker, who was a star football player back in college many, many years ago, who has it's one thing to not have political experience.
He was in the NFL too, right? Or just college?
You know what? To be honest with you, I don't know what his NFL career was like. I think he did have one, but I couldn't tell you how good it was. While you look that up, he doesn't have any record of advocating for or against any issue. He's just a blank slate with a famous name. That's literally all he is. And it's like, how do you convince people, honestly, to say he doesn't know stuff? And by the way, when he talks, it looks like those concussions caught up to him.
Well, I think I want to go beyond he doesn't know, the fact that, they don't care that he's stupid or whatever, or that he doesn't have any opinions. They're like, oh, yeah, that's great. Anybody who has, a firm opinion is just somebody who's going to, be flipped. He can literally say anything to anybody, and they're like, yeah.
So they've been all set. One of the things he's been saying on the campaign trail, and he's kind of made a big deal about this, especially now, is that he is a, quote, proud pro-life Christian. He says he does not want any exceptions for rape or incest. He wants to ban abortion entirely. Earlier this week,
he was a cowboy, an eagle, and a giant.
Okay, so he had an NFL career.
Yeah, but more specifically, he was a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, in college. Yeah. He's not someone known for politics. He's not someone known for having opinions on any of these issues. And again, even when he speaks about the issues, he doesn't seem to know what he's talking about. But he's just been told, look, just take the Republican Party line on everything.
Republicans are into shock and awe. You just keep talking and waving your arms.
Yeah. So One thing that came out earlier this summer is that, he keeps talking about having 2 kids. He actually has a third, which he never told anyone about.
The Tiffany Trump of the Walker family.
Yeah. And then he's like, I wasn't keeping that a secret or I just didn't want to bring that person into it. Then like days later, the Daily Beast is like, by the way, there's another one. And
Another one?
Another one.
There's
so now
4
he has
total?
4 kids with 4 mothers.
Okay.
And he's like, I wasn't trying to hide it. I mean, people close to me know about them, and they didn't.
They're my attic family. So.
And then this week, we found out on Monday that allegedly this
really funny
woman
joke I made.
said, he paid for my abortion back in 2009.
Okay.
Which, again, would not be a news story other than the fact that he wants to take away that option from women as much as he possibly can. And he's been very adamant about that. And the thing, Chris Hayes said this on his show this week, but it's like, if conservative Christians really believe abortion is murder, then a guy who's now complicit to murder, you should have very strong feelings about how horrible that is. What has the conservative Christian reaction been this entire week?
No more abortion except my moral abortion.
Right. The only exceptions that are allowed are for Republican politicians. Yep. No one else gets one. And then...
And their mistresses.
Herschel Walker's response was, I don't know who... It's a smear. Like, I don't even know who this anonymous woman is. But that first article about it said, well, you sent her a get well card. We have the card. That is your signature.
Excuse me?
Not only that, you sent her a reimbursement for the abortion procedure. We saw a copy of the check. And it was for $700.
Gave her a get well card for an
with
abortion.
his signature. Yep. Which I will say, fine.
I
just
don't
had one.
know about
Whatever.
that. That doesn't feel like that's like when an 8-year-old breaks an arm.
So he says, I don't know who it is. And even Sean Hannity was like, well, you sent you sent a check supposedly. I mean, are you sending $700 checks to other people? He's like, I send checks to lots of people. Scholarships,
true.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, yeah. I've gotten dozens of checks from him. I'm like, stop,
and
Herschel.
then the next
like
day...
that scene in Harry Potter with all the checks.
And then the next day, the same Daily Beast reporter's like, oh, by the way, he says he
There's a
doesn't...
fifth child?
He says he doesn't know who the woman is.
Oh.
We think he does know who the woman is because she's the mother of one of his 4 kids. He absolutely knows who she is. So yes, he had a child with her, and also he paid for her to have an abortion.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that will be he paid for an abortion, he's had sex out of wedlock, adultery seems to be buried in there somewhere, fornication.
In a normal world, look, abortions are fine.
And Raphael Warnock is, just go ahead with his CV for me. He's a...
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But just to be clear, abortions are fine. In a normal world,
Yep.
Herschel Walker could just say, look, the procedure was necessary because I wasn't in a position to have a child or another child or another child. It's the hypocrisy of saying I did. First, he denies it.
Yeah.
Doesn't know the woman. Totally does. But then he says, I had whatever. He's still denying it, but the proof is there. But he wants to stop other women from doing it. And just to point out, he has other demons in his closet that Republicans don't care about, that conservative Christians don't care about.
Okay.
One of those ex-wives, I don't know if it's the same one, one of the ex-wives said Herschel Walker put a gun to her head and said to her, I'm going to blow your effing brains out.
Yeah.
That's a quote. He also threatened to kill her and her new boyfriend. He lied about his success in the business world, making a lot less than he publicly bragged about. He said he only registered to vote in Georgia a year ago. He barely votes even when he can. His current wife committed voter fraud by voting in a state she doesn't live in.
Oh, that's a big one.
And he also set the stage for a future debate with Raphael Warnock by saying, I'm not that smart. And then after
lower
all
that
this,
bar, my friend. Lower those expectations.
That is exactly what it was. But also, when all this happened, one of the Newt Gingrich, of all people, goes on Fox News, and I'm paraphrasing here, it's not in front of me, to basically say, we still got to elect Herschel Walker to the Senate because, I mean, he's a Christ follower. You need to get a good Christian in office.
That's a good point. Raphael Warnock, again, is what
what is
situation?
Raphael? He's the reverend who is the pastor of the church that was Martin Luther King Jr.'s spiritual home.
So a fraud and like phoning it in for sure. Unlike Herschel Walker, who belongs to what church?
Next question.
Okay, and has been married. How many times? Like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
I
don't want to care about his personal life. It shouldn't be anyone's business.
Yeah.
The only reason this is a story is because he and the Republicans want to make it their business to, they want to stop you from doing what Herschel Walker has done.
Can you build
In Texas, that guy would be going to jail under their roof for aiding and abetting with an abortion.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of a cartoon character who would be more starkly contrasted against Raphael Warnock than Herschel Walker? Like, it's so... Like, just imagine telling this story 10 years ago of like, oh, so this guy has followed his life in the footsteps of MLK. And this guy is a football player who seems to know nothing about government, doesn't vote, and appears to be showing signs of severe traumatic brain injury. And it's close. Like, what?
Yeah, this is
Newt
going to be a
Gingrich,
very close race.
with a straight face, Newt Gingrich is like, yeah, I have no notes with this guy.
Yeah.
He's exactly the person I would pick. Good job, Georgia.
Newt Gingrich, the Family Matters guy who's now on his third marriage after doing what to his...
The more I learn about Newt Gingrich, the more I realize that he is almost as culpable for how terrible everything is as Ronald Reagan.
Absolutely is. Let me mention a couple other things. The reason I even wanted to bring this up here...
His name's Newt.
And his
and
name is
everyone's
Newt.
chill with that?
The thing is, if conservative Christian voters, if the people who are conservative Christian leaders ever actually believed in the principles they stand for, then his candidacy should be over. If they really do think abortion is murder, there's no way you could support a guy who you think murdered a baby.
Yep.
But they don't actually believe that. They just want to stop other people from having abortions. They don't actually care if anyone gets one who agrees with them on the principle of the thing. Even if you say, well, it happened a long time ago, he found Jesus after that. He just spent this week lying about it.
Right.
Like, does that not bother you?
I don't...
None of this matters to them. They're addicted to power, not decency. They would rather elect a Republican idiot who continues to embarrass himself than get behind a liberal pastor who is inspired by his Christian faith to fight for civil rights. Like you said, like that's how much they're scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. And yeah, go ahead.
I just think that the Republicans have done their long game for so long and have done it successfully. And now they're sort of meeting the sort of logical conclusion of where that train was heading, which is an ignorant populace who will believe anything that is told to them as long as it sounds angry. And so they've now, I think, have kind of lost that sense of long gameness. You know what I mean? And now they're just completely being like penny wise and pound foolish because they're like, okay, we need to win this Senate seat. Who cares that it makes the Republican Party look like people who have no spine and no values?
We don't care if it makes us look bad. We just need the power because it doesn't matter if we look bad.
Right.
We don't care about democracy. We don't care about election denial. None of that matters to them.
It genuinely feels like it's, again, I'm reading a lot of true crime shit. So, like, it feels like they're getting frenzy. The way serial killers, like, they ramp up and they get, like, that's what it feels like is everything, like, with Trump and all of that's happening right now. Like, they're just in this wild frenzy and I don't know what the end of it is. Like, what happens when
you're not going to get better candidates down the line like this.
I just don't understand what they think is going to happen with a Herschel Walker in place, as if they can control
Newt
Trump
Gingrich,
either.
They're just going to listen to this guy ramble, and I mean, Trump did it too, where you talk and don't say anything,
right?
And they're going to be like, "Yeah, that was brilliant." We're going to go to his rallies like it's a concert.
Well, and they've proved with Trump that he can't be relied upon to carry a message. I don't understand why Herschel Walker could be any different. Like they've played this game and got burned for
this is really telling. PRRI, Public Religion Research Institute, they put out this survey a while back, but this is really telling. They asked people, do you think an elected official who commits an immoral act in their personal life can still behave ethically and fulfill their duties in their public and professional life? Like, would you be able to overlook someone's personal failures if you wanted to vote for them, right?
Okay, wait, before you tell me,
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about this.
Sure. And to be clear, like, when Bill Clinton was in office, that was their argument. Like, whatever immoral things he's done in power shows you why he should not have been elected, because he's an immoral guy. You can't trust him. His personal ethics are flawed.
Yeah.
And look what happened.
And your past behavior indicates your future behavior.
Yeah.
We knew he was going to be a liability.
When George W. Bush was running and people brought up like his alcoholism and drunk driving and stuff, their argument was, yeah, that did happen, but he found Jesus after that. He's all better now, and whatever. They ignored the wars. But, like, that was their argument. Personal ethics matter.
Yeah.
You got to elect good, decent candidates. And, of course, all that went out the window with Trump. But I want to get to this survey. They did this twice. They asked this question twice.
Your take on it. Like, do you think so if I cheated on my husband, could I still be relied upon to make morally good decisions?
Yes.
I don't think those two things are exclusive.
I mean, I wouldn't, whatever personal issues I have, I kind of go into all of this stuff saying, like, I do not give a shit what you've done in your personal life. If, like, what are you going to do for me in the position you're actually trying to get?
Or me, society?
You, society. So if they say, like, look, I am pro-abortion rights, but like Joe Biden, I support abortion rights. Would you have an abortion? Like, oh, God, no, I'm pro-life completely in my personal life. That doesn't bother me. Now, what if they were like the Al Franken thing? You know, that was even though that was exaggerated, and I don't know how seriously to take those claims, and we talked about that when they happened, would that bother me in terms of voting for this guy? The conversation we had when that happened was his replacement's gonna be a Democrat.
Yeah.
I was fine with letting him go in favor. And by the way, I don't regret that necessarily, because Tina Smith's been fine. If he was going to be replaced by a Republican at the time, we said that would have been a much thornier issue.
We had the same conversation with like the governor of Virginia and blackface and something about that of like, if he steps down, then a
things are only going to get worse.
Yeah.
A lot of, whichever state that happened in, a lot of the black voters were basically like, no, putting a Republican in his place is not better for us.
Yeah.
We're willing to not let it slide. We're going to hold him accountable for it.
Right.
We're definitely not going to let him forget about it.
Right.
But also, we need this guy in office. So I do understand that. And by the way, one of the Republicans, Dana Loesch, something from the NRA, I think it was her, she basically said, I don't care if he did have an abortion. I want him because I want, like, the Senate majority. Which, yes, that's what we're saying you're saying. Like, at least you're admitting it.
Right.
But this is the question. Would you be accepting of it? In 2011, when they first asked this question, white evangelicals, only 30% of them said if they were immoral in their private life, then I could support them still in public life. Only 30%.
That's
2016 is the next time they asked the question, when Donald Trump was on the ballot.
Oh, can I guess?
Yeah.
70%.
You're pretty on.
Yeah?
72. Basically said, like, well, I'm willing to overlook everything as long as it's my person. And I don't necessarily disagree on that front, because if you're on my side and because you're in office, better things will happen.
And I also think that's a hard hypothetical, because A, immoral means different things to different people.
Yes.
And B, the position that person is in, I think, whatever like harm they did. So if they're like, I don't know, fighting for women's rights and they're convicted like sexual predator. Well, I wouldn't like a sexual predator anyway. But you know what I mean? Like if it's something specific versus I cheated on my husband and I'm the director of agriculture. Like, I don't think those two things are...
Well, that's exactly the point. It's like, look, I'm assuming every single person who's in office has some skeletons in their closet.
Everybody does.
Because every human has some skeletons
Not me
in
or
their closet.
Don't look for them.
Don't look for them.
Don't
That's
look for
the
them
thing.
specifically in Omaha, Nebraska.
Don't dig under the tree. Don't look in the basement.
Don't do it.
But
don't
that's the thing.
Watch Shawshank Redemption and find that exact tree.
I will I totally believe everyone has that stuff, but it's like Marjorie Taylor Greene right now.
Yeah.
She got divorced this week. Her husband filed for divorce, and I think he also said, "Oh no, let's not seal this. Please, let's make it wide open. People can know." And the thing is, I don't know what it's going to say. I don't really care because my opinion of her is not based on whatever's going on in her personal life.
No, I mean,
it's based on everything she does in her public life.
Kellyanne Conway and George Conway. It's all that stuff.
So, again, all this stuff, if they just admitted, listen, we know Herschel Walker is an idiot. He will just vote the way Republicans want him to vote. And that's the only reason anyone should vote for him, because we are evangelical Christians. We don't actually care about these principles. We just pretend to care because we want power. If they said that and just openly admitted it, that's one thing. They're not doing that. They are building this guy up as someone who's going to defend the Christian faith, that he is a man of moral conviction, unlike the Democrats. It's like, no, don't go down that route, because then you got to defend this guy. And my favorite thing about this, after the second story came out this week, that it was the mother of his child, and and Herschel Walker still denying everything. The guy who reported both of those stories suggested, oh man, that's a bold move to say, I still don't know who she is.
Wow. Like, just doubling down, man.
There's probably more bombshells to come. And that's the thing. We have to assume there will be more to come.
What's election day this year?
November something. In a month. I sent in my mail-in ballot already. That's the thing, though. Like, they're going to have to defend this guy no matter what comes out about him. And plenty of bad stuff already has. And they just won't be honest. This is the thing that bothers me. Just say, like, look, Trump is horrible in every way. We want Supreme Court judges. It's why we should have supported him. They never did that. They acted like he actually gave a shit about them. Like, no. I can't tell how many of them are lying to themselves or they're just using some party line about this.
And honestly, the irony is that Democrats tried to do that in 2016 with Hillary, because there was a healthy enough swath of people who were like, oh, fuck Hillary. And it's like, can you just please toe the party line for a second? Because we actually do need Supreme Court judges.
Right.
And the fact that she doesn't give you a boner isn't a great reason not to vote.
But I should say, this isn't the first time Christians have stuck by a morally dubious person.
Oh, you don't say.
I know. Roy Moore, they stuck by him when he was accused of child molestation.
Who's the documentarian?
Which one?
Roger Moore?
Michael Moore?
Michael Moore.
Yes.
Whenever you say, what's the one?
Roy
Moore.
Moore.
I think Michael Moore, and I'm confused for 30 seconds.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Brett Kavanaugh, of course, accused of stuff. They stood
loves
by
beer.
him.
Hammett.
He does. And they'll do the same thing here. Christian Walker, I should say, Herschel Walker's son, who is...
Well, if he named his son Christian, then who are we to challenge his faith?
Who is gay and Republican and is... Yes, your reaction now
I just
is the
feel like
right
I got
one.
hit by a truck.
He's
Christian a gay
Walker,
Republican?
He's been trolling liberals ever since this campaign started, like just poking everybody on Twitter as much as he can. After the first story came out this week, Christian Walker goes on Twitter and says, I know my mom and I would really appreciate if my father, Herschel Walker, stopped lying and making a mockery of us. You're not a family man when you left us to bang a bunch of women, threatened to kill us, and had us move over 6 times in 6 months running from your violence. I don't care about someone who has a bad past and takes accountability, but how dare you lie and act as though you're some moral Christian upright man? You've lived a life of destroying other people's lives. How dare you? And then the second day, after the story came out that she was the mother of his child, Christian Walker says, just wear a condom. Damn. He is not the hero. Christian Walker is not the guy you want to cheer for here.
I'm just sitting with this. I'm just praying on this for a second.
He is affirming what the reporting was saying, suggesting, we're aware.
Well, he's affirming to me that even if you're a young gay black man, the case of nothing matters unless it affects me personally still stands for Republicans everywhere. And that's a really fun thing to know about.
Let me make some predictions for you. Here's what you're going to hear from conservative Christians.
I don't have any gauge.
He's low 20s, maybe.
Okay. So he's not a child that I just dunked on.
Here's what you're going to hear from conservative Christians over the next few days.
Can't wait.
They will say this was always public knowledge, like the abortion thing. We've forgiven him for it. It was not public knowledge.
Would they forgive me if I got one?
No, you're going to jail. They will say, we're voting for a politician, not a pastor. So, like, whatever. We know he has things in his closet.
I should throw my IED a birthday party every year on the anniversary that I got it, just to fuck with these people.
That is exactly right. The Republican Party put out a statement saying that digging into, quote, what has or hasn't happened in Herschel Walker's past is some sort of attack on him.
That's what I was going to say about it.
Yeah. But I mean, they're just going to continue supporting him, even if it brings them no tangible benefit.
No.
I do not know how this helps them, especially if Raphael Warnock ends up winning this race. And I hope he does. That just means they've now hitched their wagon on another failed guy who's going to be used against them. So stupid. I don't get the long-term strategy for conservative Christians. And again, if they have some like, well, Raphael Warnock supports abortion rights, I can't vote for him, then stay home.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what you do.
I don't know where you can find them. I don't know how you can look yourself in the mirror and be a person who truly in their heart of hearts believes that abortion is as bad as the fucking Holocaust. And if you can do that and walk out the door and vote for a man who we can prove paid for an abortion because we have the fucking paper trail for it. Mm-hmm. If you can do that, then our understanding of what is moral and what isn't and is different, and I don't see us reconciling this.
I feel like the next bombshell, and this Thursday night as we tape this, so who knows when this is going to happen. I feel like the next step in this is that the woman in question will allow her name to be used publicly, and then she will give interviews.
Get dragged.
Yeah, she will get dragged, but also Herschel Walker will have to confront like that. Hey, we know who it is. It's no longer just an anonymous woman. Well, like she's here. She has here's the check.
I sure fucking hope she doesn't have a history of sex work or stripping because she'd get fucking eviscerated, even though, you know, he's the one who did the thing that he says he's against, and she did literally nothing wrong besides have sex with a not great guy.
I'm going to jump to a different story here.
Okay.
Let's talk about Josh Duggar for a second.
No, I thought we were done.
No, we got to, just as an intro here. Do you remember when he got arrested? How old is he? Duggar?
Yeah.
I don't know. He looks 60.
Well, rude, but okay, fair.
Well, he's in prison right now, 12 years in prison for downloading and possessing illicit images of child sexual abuse.
It's prison, right? Not jail. It's a federal crime?
You are correct.
Okay.
But remember, when he got arrested, one of the things that came up in the trial is that, you know, you were doing all this on your work computer. They seized his computer. They found all this stuff.
So embarrassing.
But one of the things that they found was that installed on his computers, not just the work one, but his home computers and stuff, was a Christian nanny bot app. It was called Covenant Eyes. That's the name of the program.
It's so fucking dystopian and creepy. It's outstanding how good they are at naming things.
So basically the way this program works is if you and your babysitter decide to install it on your computer because you're a full-grown adult, basically if you log on to like a porn site or anything else, and the software knows you've gone on to a porn site because it knows what those sites are. It'll send a message, like if you're my nanny, it'll send a message saying, Hemon's looking at this stuff. So it sends you the alert right away, like on your phone.
He's on MeUndies again.
That's the one. And so that's the thing the program did. What they found on Josh Duggar's computer is that even though that was installed, so if he was downloading the stuff that they said he was going to install, it would have alerted the people he was supposed to be accountable to. He found a way to separate that part of the computer.
I'm sorry, did the person who installed this software on his computer, did he install it himself? So it's like if
someone installed it, they watched him install it.
If I put a padlock on my refrigerator to keep myself from eating, but it's my lock, so I can just fucking unlock it. Is that what it is? Pretty
much. They installed this thing on his computer, but then he partitions his computer in a way that there is a way he could do searches on there that are separate from the rest of the computer.
So not only does he think he has, like, whatever, a problem, but he knew what he was doing was wrong enough that he had to
he knew how to find the loophole.
Many steps to get what he needed.
He installed a Linux partition that allowed him to use a computer that Covenant eyes could not watch. So basically, when he was doing all the illegal stuff,
easier just
no
to
one
like
knew.
get a dummy phone?
Could have done it. Could have, but that probably would have been easier for people to realize that that's what he was doing. I don't know. Don't ask me to justify his weirdness.
I don't know.
But the point I want to make is that Covenant Eyes was weird and creepy, and
So
even
weird and so
Josh
creepy.
Duggar got around it.
Yeah.
I should say Wired Magazine recently, they said they did a whole
Wired
article.
Magazine does not come up on this podcast much.
They did a whole thing on Christian Nanicam software.
Really?
And they said Covenant Eyes, and others like it at least, downloaded over 100,000 times. And the thing is, they're saying it's a lot. They're saying it's been used to monitor way more than just sex sites.
Oh, no.
And that's the scary thing. So in one case, there's a church, Grace Point Church in California, where basically the head pastor, if you work on the staff at all, if you're a church leader, a lay leader, anybody else, they make you install that software. And basically, they watch everything you do. In one person's case,
is it a monitoring software, or is it only it triggers something?
Well, this is the question.
Okay.
What is it that tips off the software that you've done something wrong? You might think, oh, they went to Pornhub. It sent a memo to somebody.
Sure. Usually they can okay, so where I work, there's like a really strong firewall. And so
like New York Times, want to read an article? Nope. Firewall kicks in and it's very
like
annoying.
I can't get to my Gmail, which is frustrating. But just like
annoying.
once in a while, I'll click on something and I just can't get through. And sometimes it doesn't always make sense. And my understanding of that as not an IT person is they sort of use, I assume, like a keyword or like an SEO type search of if it has these keywords or
you search
this
for
many
these
X's
things.
in it. And so some things get maybe caught that don't, or some things get through that shouldn't, but is that
I think that's
what
the
it is?
general
Okay.
idea. There's your technical answer. I think that's the general idea, but you get to set the filters.
So it's not as if they're picking selected sites to be like, actually, you know what? Some places I've heard they have to whitelist every site you go on. So everything is behind a firewall. And you're like, okay, I need Google and I need YouTube and I need like NewYorkTimes.com or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What
So
Wired
it could be
found,
like that. If you can only go to these 8 websites, good luck, dork.
I feel like you get to set how you want to do it.
Okay.
I don't know if you make the whitelist or you just say, no sex sites, no porn sites, nothing of this sort.
That says NFSW.
Yeah, exactly. They spoke to one person who said that he was monitored and what his pastor or church leader who was monitoring him got. They included his Amazon purchases, articles he read, which friends' accounts he looked at on Instagram.
Holy shit.
And basically, I'm quoting here, the trouble is providing his church leader with a ledger of everything he did online meant the pastor could always find something to ask him about. And that the way Covenant Eyes flagged content was way overzealous. So, for example, his online psychiatry textbook was rated highly mature, which is like code red. Like that's
psychology textbook?
Psychiatry textbook. Yeah,
okay.
And it was listed in a category reserved for anonymizers, nudity, erotica, and pornography.
What's anonymizers?
Like the workarounds to all that stuff.
What's the Silk Road?
That is dead now.
Oh, what was it?
I'll tell you offline.
Is it like Darknet?
Sure.
Dark web?
Sure.
Am I a hacker?
You're trying.
Okay.
But
That's
here's
all that
what
matters. That's
here's
all
the
my mom
one
told
that
me.
here's the one that really disturbed me. This is a different church, a different person.
Okay.
And they were using a similar but different software. It's called Accountable to You with the number 2. She said,
Is you written out?
you is written out.
Thank you.
It's not really about pornography, said this person. It's about making you conform to what your pastor wants. And I'm quoting here. This is wild. I remember I had to sit down and have a conversation with him, her pastor, after I Wikipedia'd an article about atheism. I was a kid, but that doesn't mean I don't have some kind of right to read what I want to read.
This is insidious. So this is like the thing that people are paranoid about for like the TSA is not the TSA, NSA?
NSA, they're
NSA
spying.
is spying on us. Like, because the reality of trying to spy on somebody's internet usage, like you and I are both on our phones like all fucking day.
Yeah.
If I have to go in my search history, I'm like, Jesus Christ, why am I scrolling so much?
There's some very interesting Reply All episodes back in the day where they're like, would you hand over your YouTube watch history to someone, like 10 years worth, just to see what you were looking up? And
I think so.
If you did, they kind of went through and then they asked the person, okay, so we have some questions for you about things you were looking up on here. And like nothing like that would be damaging. But they were like, why did you look up these videos? And sometimes they were like, I have no idea why I would have looked that up.
Can we do that as a bonus episode?
Not a chance.
Please?
Not an effing chance.
We can talk so much about music and music theory. I watch a lot of YouTube videos about music theory.
I'll look up your history.
And I watched a really cool one about traffic patterns.
I think I may have seen that too. That was a good video.
It's cool though.
Yeah. So I should say, Grace Point, that church says we're not doing anything wrong because it's all voluntary, and you get to choose who your mentor accountability partner is. But the fact that they require these grown ass adults to be babysat as a prerequisite for being one of their leaders, I mean, if you want to call these places cults, and they're like, we're not a cult, just we got to make sure you're looking at the right website.
Don't step a toe out of line, and also they can hear our thoughts. This bums me out. I'm a very big proponent of if you treat people like adults, they will act like adults. If you treat people like children, they will act like children, and that goes for people of all ages. And shit like this is so fucking infantilizing.
Yeah.
And
what happens if you have questions? What happens if you have religious doubts? Forget the porn stuff, which I think is stupid to try to block. But what happens if you have religious doubts?
Right.
And you're like, the one cool thing when the internet started blowing up when we were kids is that all of a sudden, for people who used to only be able to ask like questions about God, like in Sunday school or CCD or whatever. Now you could go online and ask like, what happens if I don't believe this stuff? What happened? And that's how a lot of people our age were led away from organized religion, because you could do those searches in private and figure this shit out on your own. And these churches don't want to give you that option of looking stuff up and like thinking about this on your own.
Well, I want to push back on the fact that they don't want, like, if you're doubting your faith, you want to look things up. I think, like, you and I look up what do Christians believe, like how does the Bible, like I look up Bible verses all the time because I just want to know the context of what they're telling me. Right. So even beyond, I have questions and I deserve to be able to seek those out, I deserve, as a Christian, I deserve to understand what I'm quote unquote up against. And I think denying that is A, woefully naive, and B, how they have been getting away with this for so long. And now they are they're hitting this wall of they can't keep people aren't going to let them keep doing this.
Well, they are all signing on to this because they want to be part of this thing. I should say Grace Point Church, that one big one in question, they had on their FAQ page about us, they literally had a question and answer that's like, is Grace Point a cult? And they were like, you guys, we're not a cult. They had to ask that question because clearly people were asking it and they wanted to refute it.
The Q was aid F enough. Was that funny?
No.
I'm tired.
Let's go. I want to get to at least these two that are wild. Okay. Christian dad. His name is Matt Kennedy. He is a rector of Church of the Good Shepherd, which is an Anglican church in New York. He's a father of 6, conservative guy. He posted a Twitter thread about how he raises his kids. And like, at first I read it, I'm like, okay, fine. Strict guy, strict dad. He's like, I raised my kids well because I kept them in line. But then you keep reading and it's like, oh my God, this is, don't raise your kids like this. Okay, I'm going to read you his thread here.
Oh boy.
Now that our children are older, and none of them are in jail, and all 6 are believing and generally pleasant to be with, I think I'll give some parenting advice. 6, and they're not in jail, so you know he's succeeded at life.
Nobody in my family's been to jail, but
that's exactly my.
I would not go that far.
Yeah, just because they're free doesn't mean they're great. He says, we didn't make any of this up ourselves. We gleaned it from various books and other parents, but here's what we did. We only had 4 rules, and they kept us sane and our kids happy since they knew where the lines were. Rule number 1, immediate obedience. Not to immediately obey is to disobey. This is the most important one. With this one rule in place and enforced, you don't need a huge list of rules. I'll stop there for a second. Immediate obedience. You tell your kid what to do, they have to do it.
Okay, I recently spent some time with Hemant's children, who are lovely. But I brought them in, and we had them grooming a horse. They came onto my barn. And I said to both, I should say Leah, my boss, who's a listener, hey Leah, or her husband, hey Brad. It was their...
They were teaching them how to do it.
They were teaching them how to groom. And Leah, who's amazing with kids, and I'm like medium. I talk to them like adults, which sometimes they like, but sometimes I'm just like, oh, who are you voting for in the next election or whatever.
Yes.
But anyway, so we were saying, Leah and I were on each side of the pony, like at their hip, to keep the kids in front of us because the back end is where the kicking happens.
Okay.
And so you want to keep them away. And we were very clear of like, you need to like quiet voices, quiet bodies. You need to really pay attention to us. And there was a few times that I looked over and your kid was like basically under the horse.
Yeah,
and
that sounds about right.
You can't do that. And I was like, you're going to get smushed. And he was like,
that, again, correct.
It was like, that's not how kids do. Kids are lunatics.
That's the thing. Like immediate obedience, like they need some leeway. They don't know how to do things.
Their brains can't function that quickly.
Yeah. And to
Except for, unless you trigger a fear response in them. Do you think that's what he's doing perchance?
Well, step 2. Rule 2.
Yeah.
Speak to, answer, look at your mother with absolute honor, respect, and deference. They tended to do that with me, but when I'm not around, they need to know that if they say any cross or disrespectful word to her, they've said it to me. Okay.
Holy shit, this guy really just tipped his hand here, huh?
Yeah. No, rule 3, no lying. I know this seems self-evident, but when the child tells his or her first lie, it seems cute. And you want to laugh rather than discipline. But if you don't enforce this rule from the earliest age, you're dooming your child to a lifetime of misery.
Okay, real question though. How can you stop kids from fucking lying all the time? Because all my niece does is fucking lie to my goddamn face.
Oh, yeah. It's a thing they do.
They love to
And they're
do
not
it.
good at it.
I asked her if she had a poopy diaper, and she said no, and then pulled down her pants, and a fucking turd rolled out.
Yeah, that's
She's
kids.
a liar.
Yes.
To my face, Hemant.
And his implication
right
his implication is you have to discipline them, which means if they do exactly what your niece did, he wants you to take it a step further, get violent. That's the implication of that.
What age do they start spanking in this sort of
In this
area?
sort of from early.
Like the baby is crying. And they're like,
Yeah.
His umbilical cord hasn't fallen off, but he won't shut up.
I'll finish this up.
Sorry.
Rule 4. At the table, eat whatever you are given cheerfully and never say anything negative about any food that is set before you ever. Be positive and grateful. Always be thankful. If they get used to complaining about food, that's a habit that will bleed over into everything. Really quickly, if the food is bad, but you say it's good, you know what that's called? A lie. It's a lose-lose situation if the food is bad. What are you going to do?
Sure
That's like the
is.
trolley problem for evangelical fundamentalist Christians.
What was the first line? You eat every bite you're given? Something to that effect?
Eat whatever you were given
Eat whatever
cheerfully.
you're given. I stayed at a home that had this kind of policy, and they had 2 young foster daughters. And so the woman who I was staying with would give me this huge plate full of food and then get mad because I couldn't finish it because she was like, we're teaching our daughters to
finish your damn plate.
your dinner.
Oh, yeah. Welcome
And I
to
was like,
every brown person gathering I've ever been to.
No, that's more of-
Stuff your plate with every food you don't want to eat.
But are they passive aggressive when you don't finish it?
Oh, I just threw it away when they weren't looking.
Oh, yeah. So, like, my Italian family has that same kind of instinct of keep piling on your food, but also don't don't get fat because that's even worse than not eating or whatever.
No, I wouldn't throw it away. I would put it on the plate of the person next to me. That's how we rolled.
Like when you were a kid, were you just like passing things down the row?
It wasn't down the row because no one wanted it. So you just like find the sorriest, saddest.
Indian food so much?
If you go to their houses, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, but I like Indian food, and sometimes I want to get Indian food with you, and you're like, no, I hate Indian food.
You didn't grow up with it.
Okay, wait, listen, we got off track
Sorry, we're
again.
talking about beating your children.
Talking about beating
I'm not
the shit
there
out
yet.
of your children for
Yes.
now. But anyway, there's two things I have wrong with that. A is like I'm an adult and I get to decide when I'm done eating. Or like I'm a human being, I get to say when I'm satiated, even though I get it, like kids eat 3 bites. They're hungry 20 minutes later. My understanding is the first 5 years of parenting is just getting food in your kid.
Yeah.
Like they just won't fucking eat for some reason.
Correct.
I would have been a great mother, so it's really too bad. But the thing is, it is not good, I would argue, to say you need to finish all of the food in your plate no matter what, because that is teaching you to not listen to your body.
Right.
And not know when you're full, because it doesn't matter if you're full, it matters when the plate's empty. And that's how people have disordered eating.
So this guy goes on. When a rule broken, I forget the grammar. When a rule broken, consequences follow immediately without delay. We used corporal punishment. So
You don't say. What? This guy corporal punishment?
We use corporal punishment delivered without raising our voices or expressing anger. You want the child to know she's being disciplined for wrongdoing, not because he or she made us angry.
At least he's on brand and not using the singular they.
But I almost think the corporal punishment without raising your voices or being angry,
That's
like
much
just
worse.
that's so creepy.
That's much worse.
The straight face, just like bring me the paddle.
It's like John Wayne Gacy's dad.
Yeah. And then he finishes.
I need to stop reading true crime shit.
Seriously.
I'm losing my mind.
Matt Kennedy finishes. After discipline comes a hug, forgiveness, and assurance that he or she can never do anything to stop our love. Then share the gospel. Jesus died for your sins and blah, blah, blah. He loves you, blah, blah, blah. I should add that I'm going to stop there for a second.
Yeah, please do stop right there.
That we're going to hurt you and then we're going to hug you and you will know that we love you is just setting your kids up for a horrible future.
That's what I would call an abusive relationship. So if Hammond told me that
Why do I have to be the example here?
because you don't have any other friends I can name.
This is accurate.
When Hammond tells me, now I lost my train of thought. He hits them but doesn't want to show emotion. So I think what he's trying to do is like, I'm not mad at you. These are just the consequences of what happened.
Yes.
Which is very, I think, in keeping with a Republican right-wing sort of sense of
we know what's good for you, and we're going to take care of it. We're the father figures.
Well, I would say beyond that, things are black and white. Things are good and bad. Mm-hmm. So, like, the stealing a loaf of bread to say feed your family, right? They're like, no, it's against the law. What about that rich baker's family or whatever? And I think that's, frankly, this sort of black and white thinking is very dangerous and kind of how we got to where we are right now in terms of like the drug war. The war on drugs or whatever, of like, well, it doesn't matter if you had an addiction problem, or it doesn't matter if you were homeless and the only thing you didn't have a job and the only thing you could do to secure an income that allowed you to put a roof over your head was sell weed or whatever. Or
you were in chronic pain and you took marijuana and that was the only way to alleviate the pain or whatever.
A million different reasons. Yeah. And to reduce everything to right or wrong, black and white, is unhelpful and frankly not how the world works. And that's not setting your kids up for success. Like, you need to learn shades of gray and morality. And I think that's honestly the danger of the Bible in some ways, of when you say this is right and this is wrong, you don't leave room for your kid to develop a conscience of their own.
Let me finish what Matt Kennedy said here. I should add that even if you do everything right as a parent, and you won't, your child can still end up taking the wrong path. This is a fallen world, and the flesh is powerful. Thus, trust
I thought
Jesus.
The flesh is weak. I thought literally the saying was the flesh is weak.
I think that's what he means by it. Anyway, trust Jesus, confess your sins, receive his mercy, pray for your kids every day, some bullshit. Even if you do everything that he says, he says your kids can still, like, end up on the wrong path, which means you don't have to listen to him. And as many parents chimed in, they didn't raise their kids with those rules. Their kids turned out great. And many of the kids who were raised with those types of rules are like, yeah, this traumatized me. My parents think I have a good relationship with them, but I don't. I give them lip service. I am not close to them. I don't share stuff with them. I don't talk to them unless I have to talk with them.
I don't know
so many
anybody
people
with that kind of relationship with their parents.
Right? So this guy who's like, I have my 6 kids are doing great. We have a great relationship. It's like,
Hey,
I don't know that you know that
if your
necessarily.
level of success that your kid is not even not actively breaking the law, but not actively getting caught for doing anything. If that's your only level of success, then like, yeah, I guess you did a good job. But I don't know. I hope you want more for your kids than just staying out of incarceration.
I know. That's such a weird brag.
Well, and especially, it does also feel like a pretty...
He didn't say, my kids give to charity. My kids really help everyone around them.
I also think it's a little bit of a dog whistle because of this sort of like school to prison pipeline of like, oh, all those black guys have been to jail. I assume this guy's white, just based on my experience moving through the world.
I think what's most concerning to me about the list is the underlying message that kids have to be deferential to their parents at all times. No arguing, no complaining. Like that, I get why that sounds nice in theory, but if you tell your kids they have to obey their parents or else, or they have to, love whatever they have in their lives or else, and they can never lie or else, you know what those kids become? They grow up to become skillful liars who have no relationship with their parents because they learn that faking it for the sake of appearances to avoid a beating or something is better than having an honest conversation with their parents. Mm-hmm. And this guy has made it clear if their kids disagree with him or if they want to have that honest conversation, there are big consequences. If a pastor takes advantage of them or they begin to doubt their faith, they cannot go to their parents because there's no trust there.
Can I use a tortured metaphor about horses?
Sure.
Great. So with horses, we do demand somewhat obedience, right? Like if I ask you to go, you go. I'm in charge here. But there are times that a horse will disobey me because they are in pain or scared or uncomfortable in whatever way. And it's my job, even though I'm in charge, it's my job to see that and say, okay, is everything actually okay, or are you just being a dick? And sometimes they're just being a dick. But like, I feel like you should give at least that much leeway with your kids of like, are you disagreeing with me because you're 2.5 and you don't want to talk about the poop in your pants? Mm-hmm. Or are you disagreeing with me because your pastor did something confusing to you and so it's causing you to act out in different ways? Like I mean, I can't just keep saying black and white thinking is terrible, but it really is.
I should say, all the stuff that this guy is saying, as many people responded under his post, this is what James Dobson taught with Focus on the Family, and a lot of kids were raised with that. This is what Michael and Debbie Pearl have said in their book, To Train Up a Child.
Oh, Train Up a Child.
Has been, it's been cited in cases of child abuse. And many kids, even if they say I wasn't like abused, they said I was raised with this sort of thinking. I do not have a relationship with my parents. I don't want a relationship with my parents. Yeah. If those are the sort of kids you want to raise, I mean, all right, at least say that out loud. But my God, it's just
so funny.
If you demand obedience instead of thinking you need to earn it, there's something wrong with your parenting style.
Yeah, that goes I mean, it's a very like greatest generation way to look at the world is if somebody is older than you, they have earned your respect just by existing longer than you, which like is a cuckoo bananas crazy pants way to view the world.
One last story. I'll make this one quick, but it raises a question I want to ask you. There in Australia, you know how I follow Australian football? Sure. There is a guy named Andrew Thorburn.
Aussie rules, or?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly.
That's rugby.
Andrew Thorburn was appointed as the CEO of the Essendon football team. So basically, they have a football league there. There's one team. This guy got appointed as the CEO of the team. He's the team manager, basically. Okay. Fine. Random guy gets this job. That's not news in any sort of way. But within 24 hours of him getting this job to run this club, he resigned. Why did he resign? Because everyone found out this guy's other job, what he does with the rest of his life, is he's on the board of what's called City on a Hill, which is like a group of churches.
Ronald Reagan.
It's a group of churches, very conservative Christian views on everything. And that includes We know they are anti-LGBTQ. There's a sermon on their website from 2013 called Surviving Same-Sex Attraction as a Christian.
Oh, so brave.
Yeah, and then
they're survivors of that?
I know.
Everybody I know has had same-sex
attraction.
Attraction was just dropping like flies. It was tragic.
There was another sermon on their website that compared abortion to concentration camps during the Holocaust.
Concentration camps is an upsetting comparison, somehow more upsetting than just saying the Holocaust.
It's very specific.
It's very specific.
So this guy said he was appointed to the board, the leadership of this church group after those sermons occurred. Like, he didn't say the sermons, and he's never openly talked about these. Like, he's not a pastor. He's not known for talking about this stuff.
Okay.
But he runs this church that preaches this sort of stuff.
Right.
And basically, if you ask him, okay, well, what do you think about this stuff? He's like, well, I'm not here to talk about that sort of stuff. Why are you asking?
People don't exist outside your hypothetical questions, so I just don't think about them or the evil.
Obviously, he supports both of those positions, which are garbage. And the backlash in Australia was so big that this guy, and basically they said,
Australia?
hey, this football club, they say, like, their marketing, the way they promote themselves to their fans is we are a safe, inclusive, diverse, welcoming club for our staff, our players, our members, everybody. How do you say that and then have this guy appointed to be your team manager, basically, your CEO, when he opposes all of that? And basically, all the clashing began after he got appointed. So the club...
What's this club called?
Essendon, Essendon.
Thank you.
They had no problem appointing a Christian. That's not a problem.
No, of course.
It's that this guy happens to be a bigot who also happens to be a Christian.
Yeah, we're not into that
And
part.
so this week, first of all, he stepped down and the club made it clear, like, yeah, we heard you. let me tell you what Thorburn said after he resigned. Today, it became clear to me that my personal Christian faith is not tolerated or permitted in the public square, ... People should be able to hold different views on complex personal and moral matters. They made it clear that my Christian faith and my association with the church are unacceptable in our culture if you wish to hold a leadership position
That's
in
what we've
society.
been saying this whole time.
Basically saying I've been canceled for my views. It's like, buddy, your views are not, I think taxes should be higher on one group of people. Your views are some people don't deserve rights. I should be able to control a woman's body. Those are not things that are up for debate in a civil society. So look, he can have his views. No one's saying you can't have your religion. You can absolutely have it. But there are going to be consequences if you step out of your Christian bubble. And I don't care if you're not here to enforce those views on anybody else. You have those views, and we're going to fucking shame you for it.
Well, and also that means we can't trust you to be impartial to people.
What happens if there's a gay player on the team? How do I know you're going to treat that person with respect? You don't do it at your church.
Honestly, I just went down a rabbit hole of looking at the cities, the train line that I used to live on when I used to live in Sydney. Budgeway is where I live. Tukley.
I do not care.
Grogan,
so I should say,
Haven.
there is a mayor in the city who actually said after he was appointed, after the guy was appointed to the CEO, Mayor Tim Baxter, deputy mayor, not a high-ranking guy, he's a city mayor somewhere. Sure. He said, I've made the difficult decision to resign my Essendon Football Club membership. I guess they have memberships. And those of my children due to their board's decision to appoint the chair of a homophobic and anti-healthcare church.
Yes. Anti-healthcare?
Yeah, that's the way he talked about abortion. To the position of CEO. I urge anybody who cares about queer rights to resign also.
Yes.
While the decision to appoint some controversial guy as coach was, in my opinion, a good one, the decision to appoint Andrew Thorburn as CEO is spitting in the face of every queer Essendon member, as well as any member or supporter who supports women's rights to reproductive health care. And then he added, the issue isn't Christianity, it's bigotry. And then the next day, after the guy resigned, he just posted a picture of himself wearing his Essendon uniform. I'm back. I'm a fan, you guys. Which is fantastic. I should say, in the U.S.
outstanding work.
Are there parallels to this in the U.S.? And I couldn't think...
The TV show Ted Lasso.
I couldn't think of one
I can give
where
you.
someone who is a fundamentalist Christian was basically booed out of his position in a similar situation on a sports team. Donald Sterling of the Los Angeles Clippers was basically forced to resign because of his racism that was caught on tape. The Las Vegas Raiders coach, John Gruden, was caught making misogynistic and homophobic comments. He just had to resign recently. So that has happened. But I cannot remember someone who was so linked to Christianity and bigotry like that that's also been forced out. This could just be my ignorance. I hope I'm not missing someone obvious.
I definitely can't think of a sports figure
Yeah.
who would have...
I just want to point out the pressure for him to resign, it was not religious discrimination. It's that the values you care about do not align with what decent people and also the sports team say they value.
Do you think we'll ever not have to say that, like, hey, me saying that you're a homophobe is not anti-Christian?
Right.
Like, do you think we'll ever have to, like, clarify, like, hey, just because we're not in this guy to resign doesn't mean we don't like Christians? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
we're
it's
gonna
not
do
the
it
issue.
for the rest of linear time.
That's going to keep happening until I think more Christians speak out against guys like this. And they have. Like, I'm not pretending they don't.
Sure.
But that's, I think, what will help make that change happen. As more Christians say, yeah, buddy, this isn't about your faith. I share your faith. I would have this job.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be a problem if I was appointed to your job. It's a problem because you think you can do this while also holding these hateful views. Stay in your bubble. Stay in your lane. Like, if you want to spread bigotry to your kids and your church, like,
And certainly
whatever.
gone are the days that somebody can be, like, nakedly homophobic without
Yeah.
any consequences. Not to say
And
that people
good.
aren't... Yeah, of course, it's great. And not to say people don't get away with bullshit and people don't get taken seriously when they should. But, like, it's a new dawn. It's a new day, and I'm feeling good. I'm so sorry. So sorry I quoted Michael Bublé.
Where do we find you?
You can find me... we should talk about the bonus episode before we do.
So Jessica has finally...
I don't know why
What
that
have you
felt
done?
really aggressive that you called me by my full name.
Jessica, what have you been watching?
So, for the first time in my entire life, I am watching a season of Survivor.
Which I do regularly.
Which
'cause
is
it's
the only
watch.
show that Hemant watches, which has long been one of the more confusing aspects of the Rubik's Cube, who is Hemant Mehta.
Of all the skeletons in my closet.
Exactly. This is what he's most ashamed. His love of Survivor almost made him not get on Jeopardy. It was really upsetting for all of us. And so for our bonus content for the next however long the show's on, 12 weeks-ish?
How long is this show
Yeah.
on? Yeah, it's about 12
weeks. Our bonus episodes, instead of me talking about whatever bullshit I want to talk about, which is, listen, I'm going to miss this.
She has a lot of questions.
Oh boy. I took so many notes, y'all. Should I post that video that I sent you of my first?
I think you showed me some of it, but I should say...
No, I sent him a 30-second video of me just flipping through the notes I had taken. It was 10 pages.
Yes.
Not okay. So that's what we're going to be doing in the bonus episode. You can go to patreon.com/friendlyatheist podcast if you want to listen to those and all the other stuff we have up there.
3 episodes of the new season of Survivor have aired, so that's where we're going to start from.
And
if
I have
you
some
need to know.
really strong opinions already.
Excellent.
I was hate texting Hemant for a while, and then I was like, oh, I need to like save this hate for the show. No,
Yes.
it's enjoyable. Listen.
Save it.
Listen, say nothing else. It's a well put together piece of thing. It makes me feel the emotions it's supposed to make me feel. My heart races faster. Whatever. It does what it's supposed to do. You can always find me on Twitter. Oh, hey. You can find me on Twitter at Jess Blumke. Also, if you live in the Chicagoland area, the barn I work at, it's called the Hansen Center. It's under the Ray Graham Association. It's in Burridge, Illinois. We are having 2 events in the next few weeks that I would love for people to come and, pay some money for the nonprofit that I work for. And also, maybe we can hang out. I think I'm going to be painting a horse like a skeleton. Do I have the skills to do that? I do not. So the first one is called Bonfire at the Barn. It's on Saturday, October 15th at 6:30 p.m. $25 per person, and I think you get to hang out with the animals, and there's s'mores, etc. So that's the 15th, and then the other one is a Fall Fest, and that is October 23rd. That's a Sunday at 11 a.m. I don't know how much that one costs. I'll give more. Anyway, Ray Graham Association, 15 West 431 East 59th Street in Burr Ridge. Come hang out, donate to us. See, there's a goat named Squirt.
Yes.
So
Squirt. You can find me at Hemant Meta on the Twitter. And go to patreon.com/friendly atheist podcast.
You can always email us at friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com. Leave us a review. I'm not going to read one because I forgot.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.